So today what I'm doing is I'm going to repaint the trim around the sliding door. This is in our bedroom, and we had an old sliding door that was there, but there was so many leaks, especially up here in the Northeast, especially here where the sliding door meets the stationary door. The last one had like a huge gap, and just running up the heating costs just to sleep in this room. So we had purchased a new sliding door, and I was hoping that he was going to rip out the trim, the old trim, because the previous owners had a lot of oak on their trim, and so I'm slowly changing everything out. So they were varnished. I'm sorry, they were stained and then varnished thereafter, so he had like this nice sheen. Let me see right over here. You can tell a little bit of light reflection, and previously in another house I painted over it, and then what happens is if you were to actually bump into it or scratch in any way, the paint couldn't stick because it was so slick and smooth, and you would see the stain beneath it. So I've been doing a lot of reading, checking out some sites, and essentially what they're telling us to do is to sand it down, so you get like this nice rough surface. I'm actually sanding down at it 80. I've done it at 120, but it just takes a little bit longer. It's going to be a lot more rougher, but if you do it, with a grit of 80. But then thereafter, you can probably just go over it again with a higher grit. But I think once you paint over it, it's going to be a lot smoother, which I've done with the other trim in the house. So as you can tell, I already started. You can see that it's a lot more of a lighter shade, and you don't have to sand down to the grain, but just enough to get it nice and rough for the paint to stick onto. So you can tell where I didn't. Again, I'm going to have to sand down there, which is closer to the new sliding door. So when that happens, what I did was I actually used the painter's tape, so I wouldn't bump into the sliding door, and then you'll see all these scuff marks. Especially with a new door, you don't want to do that. So I'm gonna have to tape it all the way around, Now my area of focus, okay, is actually where you go in and out, because this is the door that slides open and slides closed. So obviously this part is going to be more affected than the opposing part, because again, that door is stationary. All right, so I like to do things right, so I'll sand everything down and then prime it over, and then after that, once it's primed, then put the white. I plan to paint it white. All right, something neutral so it blends with everything. Unlike the oak, which still is good, but I guess it goes with certain certain decor in the house. I haven't really tried. I haven't really see if it worked with any other color, but I'm just more of the basic, painted white. White goes with anything. Now, off to the side here, again, not that much traffic going through because this is where you can go in and out through the deck. But the same thing as I did on this side, where if I were to sand the wood, I didn't want to bump into the wall. Into the new sliding door. Here, I'm actually going to put painter's tape going down, and then sand here as well. I'm not going to worry too much on the top, like the very, very top of the, where it's parallel to the ceiling, because no one's going to see it unless you're about 9 feet tall. So that's the least of my worries. It probably would have been helpful enough for me to take down the blinds, but I'm trying to work around it, okay? Again, over here, where the wood meets the sliding door, I'm going to, again, painter's tape. That way if I sand it, it won't scuff up here, and then likewise on the opposite side. Now you can tell I painted, but I wasn't sure if I was going to change out the trim, so I didn't paint it all the way through. The previous wall was kind of like a light yellow, but I've started painting it a little bit more of an off-white, and then the white would actually be more of a contrast between the two areas. So what I have been using, I'm a huge fan of DeWalt, is this round sander, okay? It's actually, and then all the dust will be collected into that little bag. Not all of it goes into the bag, because you can tell down here, there's dust pretty much all over the place and then in the air. So I'm going to have to actually change out the bed sheets and what have you, and then put some, again, off the, take a lot of the dust off. You can tell there. So that's what I use to sand here, okay? Just the outer part of the trim, okay? And then for the small areas, again, I can still use this round sander and go as close as I can, which is pretty good. But then what happens is, because it's rounded, it doesn't really meet all sides of that corner there. So the hard to reach areas, I end up using this. Let me see here. This is also made by DeWalt. It had an attachment. It does multiple things, you know, but I use it to cut wood. But now, yeah, I bought this little piece off of Amazon, which you attach, and again, that is a little smaller sander, which I can come closer. And again, I wouldn't worry too much about hitting the edge, but I would still be careful, because obviously when this is really on and it's vibrating, it's going to actually tear up the tape and then start scuffing up the wall. Likewise, I'll use it as here as well. So it just makes life so much easier rather than doing it by hand. Okay, I've done it by hand before, a lot of elbow grease, and it just seems to, I can do the job a lot much quicker with that, and it's pretty much uniform as well, because it keeps it steady speed. So, but that's what we have so far. Okay, again, any questions, let me know. But this is pretty much a straightforward video. The trim, again, I'm gonna remove all of that, and then this is the trim that I'm actually gonna put in. It's a little bit taller, and it just, you can see the contrast. So, you know, I see how it's white and then more of the off-white. Alrighty. Okay, thanks a lot.